Tuesday, November the 8th. You all should be reading Ezekiel chapter 34, 35, and 36, as well as Psalm 86 and John chapter 12. I don't know where you are, but maybe you are in the United States, or maybe you're in other countries watching this. But something I know that's going on in the United States today, maybe you've already experienced this yourself, it's a voting day for us. It's a day for us to have our chance to let our voice be heard in how we vote and how we want people to lead our nation. If you are an American citizen, one of the things we talk about all the time around our church is that we believe that one of the things you should do is exercise your right to vote, and we should be voting for men and women who lead us closer to godly ideals and principles. That's it. We should take the time to get to know the men and women who are running, who are trying to lead us, and vote for people who are leading us. But one of the things I wanted to talk about today, just very briefly, in our time together, is this concept of trust. I think sometimes we get to days like today, and it begins to show a world around us where our trust is. Who's in control? Who that we believe will lead us to better times. And for some of us, one of the things we struggle with is trusting God and His timing and the outcome of the things in the middle. I think it's cool that in John chapter 12, we see something happen to Jesus about trust. John chapter 12, I want to read a few verses with you today. In case you haven't read it, you get to read it with me. If you have read it, perhaps this will just be a good time to listen. John chapter 12, verses 1 through 11, we'll read together just shortly. It says this: 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Here, a dinner was given in Jesus' honor. Martha served, while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with him. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume, and she poured it on the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But one of the disciples said, his name was Judas Iscariot, the one who was later to betray him, they objected. They said, "Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages." He did this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it. "Leave her alone," Jesus replied. "It was intended that she should save the perfume for the day of my burial. You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me." Meanwhile, a large crowd of Jews found out that Jesus was there and came, not only because of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. So the chief priests made plans to kill Lazarus as well. For on account of him, many of the Jews were going over to Jesus and believing in him. I read this because this is 6 days before the Passover. 6 days before Jesus is going to die on the cross for me, for you, for the whole world. He knew it was coming. He knew the cost of what is going to take for him to save us. And yet, despite the distractions around him, despite the fighting that was taking place in the room because of this pure nard oil that was anointed on him, he did not lose sight of his trust. Jesus trusted in God's plan and God's providence, that no matter what happens to us in this life, because we have our unwavering hope in God, that no matter what happens here, we can trust God with the end, right? But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't live and pray for things that happen now. It doesn't mean that we should pray for the best for our nation and for our leaders, and that we shouldn't pray for our leaders to love God. No, we should. We should pray for our nation to be blessed. We should pray whatever nation we're living in, and that we have godly leaders who are leading us closer to godly ideals. But more so, we should be trusting. We should trust that no matter what happens to us in this world, God is in control. God has a plan and He has a purpose, and no human being will thwart it. No human being will distract it. And just like in John chapter 12, where Jesus knew it was coming, He still trusted in God's plan. We too need to trust in the plan of God. That He loved the world so much, He sent Jesus to die for us. That He has saved you and me and sent us to help other people join His kingdom. And that no matter what happens, we all who follow Jesus will spend eternity with him. That's good news. No matter what happens in politics, no matter what happens today, trust Jesus. Church, until we see each other tomorrow, you are sent.